Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is a morning market prep video for July 22nd, 2022. Well, yesterday those bulls had another good day despite some really ugly economic data. First, jobless claims came in just a little bit higher than expected, but my goodness, that Philly Fed number was a massive miss. And though we had those bears engaged for a little while during the day, the bulls in a very surprising high speculation move into next week's big tech earnings, there just seems to be a willingness to rush into risk, pushing those markets back up. So let's take a look at what we have going on here in our charts, see if we can gain some information about how we may want to approach the market today in the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Hope you had a great afternoon yesterday, great evening, and ready for another wild day of the market. Let's take a look at these charts. First off, you can see we continued to extend up yesterday despite the bad macro data in the market. We're really speculating heavily on those big tech earnings. There's tremendous hope that those big tech earnings will be good. However, there was some tech earnings last night that maybe not so great. Let's take a look here in the chart. Certainly we've broken through resistance levels and all of that is bullish. We're looking at a nice potential chart setup. We're up substantially in a short-term period of time, and that is a little bit of a concern. But if we take a look at our moving averages, you can see up here above our 50-day, the pullback yesterday did come in contact with that 50 and 8 exponential, and we bounced right off of it as we continue to stretch this market to the upside. If you take a look, if we were to go to the Dow itself and measure, here's one of our little concerns here is that we are now almost 1,900 points higher in just a very short period of time. So I want to caution everyone to be careful about chasing into that extended condition, because we could see that pullback at any time. And the other thing that's really concerning to me, and we'll talk about this probably, well, let's just talk about it right now, is the fact that we're continuing to do this on low volume, which is a little bit concerning to me. It's okay, for a day or two, but as we move through to see that commitment or that volume surge into the market as we rally is what you would expect to see, and we're just not getting it here in the market. So that does raise some concerns and maybe just a little bit of caution. Let's take a look at the SPY. Also nice rally up. We're pushing through those downtrends, breaking through resistance levels in the chart. We're holding above the 50-day moving average, which again is very, very bullish for the market. And as long as we can continue to prove to hold above that 50-day moving average, then hey, we've got more upside potential here in the market. So watch that closely. The bulls are definitely in control here, albeit pretty extended in that short-term period of time. We're due a resting pullback at any point in time in the market. But the speculation into these big tech earnings is tremendous right now. Now, to me, kind of surprising that traders seem to have so much confidence in the big tech giants that they're going to perform extremely well even in this challenging quarter. So let's take a look. We've pushed up through some resistance in the chart right there, and we have some more coming up here in that chart that we'll want to be paying attention to. We've broken through these downtrends, at least the shorter term downtrends. We've broken through those shorter term downtrends, and although we still have those longer term downtrends that we still have to deal with, QQQ is looking quite bullish here in the market, holding above its 50-day moving average and really extending itself tremendously. So be careful in chasing into those stocks. Again, we'll probably do a rest or pullback here soon. Let's take a look at our IWM. IWM also very, very bullish. And once again, we continue to perform. Let me run back here to the NASDAQ. We continue to stretch this market out on lower volume, which is really kind of surprising. And I think it does lean us to that little bit of extra caution in the market. Let's take a look here as we continue to stretch up in the IWM. IWM breaking that downtrend, breaking through resistance levels in the chart. So this is a very, very bullish condition. Assuming we can hold the higher low in here, there's no reason to believe we can't go higher if we hold that higher low. But I will tell you, we are extended in the short term, and then a resting pullback is certainly due in the Russell here as well. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, VIX had a good day as well yesterday, finally showing a little bit more commitment in the bullish run, and moving down, even though yesterday was one of those lighter volume days and a lot of seesawing back and forth. We seem to be running, fear just seems to be dropping out of the market. There is tremendous confidence about these earnings. Now, I don't share that same confidence about these earnings. As a matter of fact, I am being cautious, pretty darn cautious here in the market, because I just don't feel that earnings are going to be that stellar this quarter. I hope I'm wrong. I honestly hope I'm wrong. But as we watch this extend up, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious, erring on that side to protect my capital, more than rushing straight into a high-risk situation of next week. Let's take a look at our T2122. Our T2122 remains in a very extended condition. We had started that pullback yesterday, early on, with the really ugly macro data, economic data in the market. Started that pullback, but those bulls rushed right back in. And again, it was big tech really making the push here in the markets. And as you can see, we remain extended here in our T2122. Now, this morning, we have a little bit of back and forth going on here in the market with, well, just maybe a little bit of concern, but we're pushing the Dow. We've reversed the Dow right back into bullishness here this morning. So keep a close eye on that. Now, just remember, we don't have a whole lot of room that we can go to the upside here in our T2122 indicator. And there's never been a time, there has never been a time when T2122 didn't indicate to us that potential pullback. So can we stay elevated up here for a while? Absolutely. We can stay elevated in this area as that speculation continues, but be watchful for that possibility of that substantial decline coming in the market. Now, please keep in mind, it doesn't mean that we have to collapse at all. As a matter of fact, a resting pullback that pulls us back toward that 50-day moving average could bring us all the way back down here in T2122. So keep in mind, just pulling back to test that 50-day as support. I don't know that we're going to do that, though, as long as we have this high speculation of these big tech earnings next week. So just keep that in mind. We could rest a little bit, but we may not get that massive decline, that several 100-point decline to pull us back and test those 50-day moving averages. Let's take a look at our T2107. Now, our T2107, surprisingly weak still, although it has improved right at the end of the day yesterday. We're still struggling with price resistance, and the major downtrend here continues in the market. But one of the reasons that is the case is we have so many stocks with the 200-day well above the 50-day moving average. And if we look at our T2108, our T2108 did have a good response yesterday. 54% of the stocks at the close were above their 40-day moving average. And so you can see we did have that nice surge back up, but we also want to be keeping in mind we've done this before where we've kind of stretched out here in the market only to get that disappointment. So watch that carefully to see if we can actually hold up here or even push through those levels. It's going to be really, really important here for the market. Let's take a look at our T2101, and T21 continues to stretch up here. But once again, as I mentioned, those volume levels are a bit of a concern and maybe a reason for a little bit of caution. And you'll want to keep in mind that we did get this earnings report from Snap. Snap is not looking good this morning. It has improved a little bit. Earlier this morning, it was looking like it was going to open down close to 30%. But there are earnings disappointments out there to be considering. And you just kind of have to wonder what happens if one of those big tech giants misses. So be careful. Be careful with your trading. Let's take a look at our economic calendar for today. Now, our economic calendar doesn't have a whole lot on it, but we do have one report here that might have that potential of moving us around. We've got the PMI flash, and the PMI flash is looking for basically a little tiny pullback by consensus. Not much not much going on there at all if it comes in as the consensus expects. But I want to remind you that consensus was also expecting just a tiny little shift in the Philly Fed manufacturing, and it missed by a whopping amount. So keep an eye on that. Some of these macro internals are definitely showing some concern. Now, the other thing that you want to be paying attention to is next week we have a massive round of big tech earnings reports. We've got Google and Meta, and we've got Apple and Microsoft all reporting next week with a bunch of other big techs in there as well. And you'll want to consider that carefully, remembering that next week we're going to get a GDP reading, and then we're also going to get that big FOMC rate increase next week. So kind of keep those things in mind. I don't know how they'll affect the market, but we definitely want to be paying attention to that risk as we head into next week. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar for today. Now, our earnings calendar, not hugely heavy here this morning. We have about a little over 20 companies that are reporting. Some of them not so notable, but the ones that I put on the list today for notability, if you guys want to catch the full list, make sure you click the link below the title of the video. That'll take you back to that morning blog where you can get that full list of notable stocks. First off, American Express, AXP, reporting this morning, so we'll want to keep an eye on that. Looks like American Express trying to perk up here this morning, so watch that. We've got some steel in here with Cleveland Cliffs reporting. We're going to hear from a couple of utilities, NEE, and we're going to hear from NEP. So you'll want to keep an eye on those this morning. And we've got a little bit of oil. Schlumberger will be reporting today. And we're also going to hear from Verizon. So keep an eye. Oof, boy, Verizon looks like pretty ugly here on that open this morning here in Verizon. So watch those things closely. We've got potential of volatility. And remember, the Snap earnings could really be a negative on that NASDAQ this morning, so watch that close. So with that, let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, guys, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you continue to find these videos to be useful and helpful, if you can please continue to click those thumbs up buttons, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who does help out that way. I truly appreciate everyone who takes the time to do it. And thank you so much for your kind support. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. And remember, guys, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. As a matter of fact, you need to do your own due diligence and be thinking very, very carefully about the risks, particularly sliding into the weekend and considering how big a data week next week is going to be. There's likely going to be tremendous volatility next week, so make sure you're paying attention to that. First off, I want to mention UPS. As you guys know, I've been talking about UPS for some time, and we slid out here toward that trend. We're looking good, following through to the upside. Keep a close eye on that. If we're going to be bullish in the market, we're definitely going to need those consumers to be out there spending and spending hard, and that's going to provide some upside for those shippers despite the high prices in energy. So keep a close eye on that. As you guys know, Etsy has been one that I've been talking about for a while as well. That continues to look good, breaking through this resistance in the chart, moving right on up. This is that rounded bottom breakout that we talk about a lot, breaking on through, pushing on up to the upside, and you can see there's that move where we crack above the 50, we prove to hold it, and we move on up. And that's one of the concerns that I have in the overall indexes right now. If we take a look at the QQQ, it's one thing to stretch through the 50-day moving average. Remember, it's another thing to prove whether or not we can hold it. There's that stretch to the 50. That's what we need to see. We need to see that we can actually hold above that 50-day moving average. So we've got some work here to do as we roll into those big tech earnings. So keep an eye on those kind of things here in those indexes. On with some stocks. If we take a look at snow, as you guys know, I've been talking about snow. I think snow is still setting up here nicely. Keep an eye on that. As we move along here, if those earnings continue to perform pretty well, we might see this continue to stretch on up, break that little resistance in the chart. So keep an eye on some stocks like that. We also just have a huge number of stocks that have broken above that 50-day moving average and trying to prove some of that support. Take a look. As you guys know, I've talked about Rivian several times here and in the pre-market video, and you can see that's looking pretty good, breaking through, holding that 50-day moving average, continuing to move up in a nice bullish pattern here in those charts. So watch that closely. You know, we have quite a few companies that are seeing some good responses. Take a look at Roku. Roku's getting a big sympathetic move after the Netflix better than expected earnings report. So we're seeing Roku pushing up, holding above that 50-day moving average. Let's watch that closely. If it holds in there, follows the trend, we might have an upside opportunity coming in Roku. You can see the same if we look at stocks like NVIDIA. NVIDIA breaking through that 50-day moving average. It probably needs a little rest or consolidation in here before it moves on higher, but watch that closely. NVIDIA looking good. We see that same kind of thing across a lot of stocks, and then we have these stocks that are just kind of stretching up there and just now peeking out from underneath that 50-day moving average. And we have to be a little bit careful with these because they are pretty stretched, and we've seen that stretch here before where we just couldn't hold, go right back down through that level. So watch that closely, but wait for that next opportunity. If this rests or consolidates, if we were to pull back in here and then bounce right back above the 50, or if we were to consolidate along this area, then we'd look for those upside moves in the market. And of course, next week's earnings reports will certainly be telling and either provide that support or resistance into next week. So watch those things closely. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Get some rest out there. It's going to be a big week next week. Get some rest. Have a great time with your family, and we'll see you right back here bright and early. Monday morning. Have a good one, everyone.